All right, guys, what is up? Hey, guys, welcome to another episode of Sexual Mastery. I'm Jonathan White, and I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so that you can magnetize your ideal life. So today I'm going to be talking about tantric sex and what that involves. So I'll be getting into that in a minute, but just a few announcements. First of all, I want to thank all the almost 80 men who are going through my course right now, hearing lots of breakthroughs, lots of people having amazing experiences. Someone yesterday was sharing that they found connecting to the earth, connecting the earth energy and mixing out their sexual energy during sex helped them to overcome their premature ejaculations. That was a sweet takeaway on that. I teach that in my course. And another person saying they had an out-of-body experience with some breath work we did and all kinds of great testimonials so far. And they're about 4 weeks into the course. They're not even to the end yet. So shout out to all the guys who joined my course. And also just started my Spiritual Bad Boys group, the Spiritual Bad Boys movement, which I'm doing with my friend Nakula Das. Basically, it's an online training group where we talk about success, we talk about self-mastery and sex, sexual energy. And we had our first training today. We were just talking about old stories that we're telling ourselves, old patterns we're living through, and clearing these things from your life. So we're still a couple more days to get into the Spiritual Bad Boys. Check out, if you're on Instagram, check out the link in my bio. And if you're on YouTube, check out the link in my latest video to join Spiritual Bad Boys. Okay, guys, so I'm going to be talking about tantric sex. No Nut November was going well until another pesky nocturnal emission. It happens, brother. Don't worry too much about it. You'll recover. Watch my videos on preventing wet dreams. So tantric sex, what is tantric sex? So tantra it basically means, there's different translations of it. Some people say it means to weave together, or it means like connection, joining. Basically, it's about similar to yoga. It's connection, mind-body connection to source, connection with others. And tantric sex, tantric is kind of a word people just throw around. The actual lineage of tantra was much more than just sexual practices. Sexual practice was just one small section of it. Really just basically another path of yoga. So tantric sex basically is talking about, in my opinion, a more evolved way of approaching sex. And so our modern approach to sex, we're so evolved, and in many ways our society is very advanced. But when it comes to our sexual habits and our sexual patterns, we're quite primitive. I would say still very animalistic. It's still based on these very physical desires and still a purely physical act. And we were conditioned, in my opinion, we were conditioned to have this purely physical, animalistic connection to sex because of porn. In the porn industry, most men learn about sex through porn. That's how I learned about sex. And we spend, some people spend their entire lives just trying to repeat what we saw in porn, right? And it gives us this completely physical approach to sex where you're just trying to like thrust away frantically at your partner. It's all happening here in the genitals, and then you just explode in an ejaculation, and it's just really not fulfilling. It drains you over time, to be constantly ejaculating. Hey, what's up, Nakula Das? So it teaches you this connection. Excuse me. Learning about sex through porn, it teaches us this experience of sex that's completely limited to the genitals, and it's pleasurable, but it's, in the long run, it's not very fulfilling and just depletes us over time, because as men, ejaculatory orgasms deplete us of energy. We're literally ejecting our essence out of our bodies every time we ejaculate. So getting in the habit of doing that is not very beneficial to us on many levels. And so, yeah. And it's this pattern of discharging yourself during sex. Men specifically tend to approach sex as this way to discharge themselves through, just discharge their tension, their irritations, their stress right into their partners. So they're just using sex as a stress release, basically, which, so many guys are. And again, this just depletes you over time, and it causes resentment between you and your partner. So it's this very, not very evolved approach to sexuality. And it's, unfortunately, that's what, again, most people are just conditioned to experience. And it's just what their definition of sex is this purely physical connection where they're just trying to thrust frantically into the partner until they ejaculate. So this pattern drains us, causes us to age as we approach sex in this very unconscious way. So the other end of the spectrum here, we have the tantric sex, the evolved sex, and it's about connection. It's about connecting with someone, because sex is an exchange. It's connection, whether you're aware of it or not. When you have sex with someone, you're connecting with them on so many levels. You're exchanging information. You're exchanging patterns. You're exchanging so many different, on so many levels. You're exchanging things, and you have to be mindful of this, because when you have sex with someone, you take on their emotional patterns, their emotional baggage, maybe. You may be taking on patterns from their ancestors, patterns that were handed down to them. So you're just completely intertwining yourself with this person. And so when you approach sex in a mindful way, when you're aware of this fact, then it can become very beautiful, because you're entwining yourself with a person, connecting consciously, connecting from the heart, connecting from the soul, and the genitals as well. But it's this full multidimensional experience. Sex is multidimensional. And it's what's really happening here during sex is we're resolving a polarity, because we're separated into male, female bodies, and we're physically polarized, and we feel this sense of incompletion throughout our lives because of this. And that's why when we have sex with someone, we're completing this polarity, the opposite end of the spectrum. We meet together and we experience this sort of neutral state where we're connected. We feel at oneness. We feel whole again, because we're resolving this polarity. And that's what's happening during sex. That's why it's such a powerful force in our lives. But unfortunately, again, it's completely unconscious for so many people, and they're missing out on some of the incredible things that they could be experiencing through sex, and some of the powerful healing they could potentially be experiencing. So it's really about approaching sex, where you, again, being mindful of the fact that you're connecting deeply with that person on many levels, and your two polarities coming together, and you build this sexual charge. When two people have sex together, they generate much more energy than either of them could have generated by themselves. You generate this tremendous electromagnetic field of energy, and it's so powerful. And you can use that energy to heal yourself. You can use that energy to balance yourself, to meditate with. You cultivate this energy, and you can store it in your body. You can refine it through meditation. You can meditate with your partner. There's so much you can do with this energy that you generate during sex, instead of the standard approach for most men, which is to just, they build up the sexual charge, but they can't hold on to it. They have to ejaculate it out. When you can hold that sexual charge and store it in your body, that's where the power comes from. That's where, it's incredible. And again, you refine this energy through meditation. You work with it every day, and it can drive your entire life. And you can make so many incredible things happen. You can heal yourself with this energy and bond yourself deeply to your partner. So those are some of the, little overview of the tantric sex approach. And so a lot of questions. I'll get to questions at the end of this, as always. So just to give you guys a little bit of tips on how you can start to have a more evolved approach to sex, how you can start having tantric sex. Number one is breathe with your partner. Spend some time just breathing together. When you breathe in sync with each other, you start to resonate together. The breath, you harmonize your breath. So you inhale as your partner's inhaling, you exhale as they're exhaling. So you sync your breaths together, and it starts to connect you in resonance. Even if you're having like a conflict or something, if you start to breathe together, you'll get back into sync. And this leads to a very deep connection on many levels. Just that in itself, just breathing together with someone is very, very powerful and can be a very healing in itself. Also, eye gazing, where you sit apart from your partner and you just look into each other's eyes. Do that for 5 or 10 minutes. You start to build this charge, this powerful energy field between you. These polarities. When you eye gaze, it's very, very powerful. And of course, you can carry that into sex as well. But just the act of sitting there eye gazing with the partner is a very powerful tantric practice. So again, it's about having this mindful connection. And so those are some tips for you guys. I'm going to answer questions now. If you guys have any questions or want to share anything, just feel free to reach out. Spiritual Bad Boys. Yeah, Nikula Das is here, my Spiritual Bad Boys partner. Yeah. Again, if you were interested in joining Spiritual Bad Boys, there's on Instagram, there's a link in my in my profile, and on YouTube, there's a link in my latest video. Training men to become masters of sex, of success, of their own bodies. Tried some Tai Chi. I tried some Tai Chi for the first time this morning, felt pretty energized. It killed some of the pain in my energies. Yes, Tai Chi is an incredible practice. I've been doing a lot of that. So it's one of my favorites. Yeah, it can definitely heal your body. Tai Chi. How to build up sexual energy you lost. Watch my video on YouTube, how to recover quickly from ejaculation. Those are some tips to regain your energy after an ejaculation. Also basically doing Qigong, certain foods, certain herbs will help you build your sexual energy back up. How do I move my semen upwards toward my spine and make it spread in my brain crown chakra? So you can't actually move the physical semen itself up the spine. This is a bit of a misconception. What you're moving is the essence. You're sort of extracting the essence of that energy, moving it upward. You do this through breath, through visualization, through, first of all, opening the energy channels of the body, the microcosmic orbit. The energy needs an open pathway to flow through before. If you just try to bring this energy up your spine, try to shove it up your spine like a lot of people do without having an open channel, you can get it blocked somewhere. You can get it blocked somewhere in your body and actually amplify unconscious patterns. So you want to clear the energy channels before you start moving sexual energy through them. What herbs would you recommend while on NoFap? It depends what your goal is. There's not like one herbal regimen that's right for everybody. It depends what your goals are. If you're trying to build sexual energy, there's certain herbs you would take, or if you have like an abundance of sexual energy, then you wouldn't want to take those herbs, for example. So it depends what your goal is. Wondering about moving energy while injured. Mine is stuck in my hips. Yeah, different practices different meditations, different practices, depending what your injury is, can help you to move energy. I use Qigong, I use meditation, Tai Chi, some yogic practices to move energy. I feel like there's no intimacy in my relationship. It's just to get his release, never about me or loving on me. He's a lot older, and I've been trying to figure out a way to introduce him to this. Yeah, it can be tough. Sounds like he's a guy that's stuck in that pattern of, sex is a method for him to discharge, and he's not really mindful of you and your fulfillment, your pleasure. So, it can be a tough thing. If you can get him into this, it would help him, but, not everyone's going to be open to it. So, use your intuition, use your own, do what you think is right, for yourself and for the situation. Your warrior's breath is amazing. Awesome. Glad you like the warrior's breath. It's one of my favorites, which is from the Tumo breathing video I have on YouTube. Does retrograde ejaculation make you lose energy like the normal ejaculation? Yes, because retrograde ejaculation, you're just ejaculating into your bladder and then you urinate it out. So yes, retrograde ejaculation is basically just a full-on ejaculation. Am I vegan? No, I'm not vegan. I tried a vegan diet, but I found my sexual energy levels actually plummeted. Like my sexual desire dropped when I was on the vegan diet. I was doing everything. I was taking all the supplements, all the everything, and for me, it's about just having a balanced diet, in general. So I don't follow like one specific diet plan. I do eat organically. I eat, nutrient dense foods, but I'm not like, too stuck into a certain genre of diet, I will say. What happens energetically for women when they have sex? Do they keep attached or the men suck the energy? They say you keep attached for 7 years. Yeah, when you have sex with someone, you create this bond with them. You literally glue yourself to a person. You exchange all this information with them. You become entwined with that person. I don't think it's just 7 years. I think it's a lifetime, or if not longer. When you have sex with someone, you become glued together basically. So that's why you must be careful about who you choose to connect with. Were you eating enough while vegan? That's a common mistake. Yeah, I was eating 3,000 plus calories a day. High protein, high fat, I will say. Do you breathe from the belly the whole day or just when you want? Pretty much throughout the day, I'm doing belly breathing. How do I tell a woman I practice Tantra? Should I be more open about my semen retention with the people in my life? Well, it depends. Like first date, you might not want to be like, hey, hello, my name is Bob and I practice semen retention. You maybe wait a little bit till you get to know them better. I told my partner once we were getting intimate because it seemed like an appropriate time, like, hey, I don't ejaculate typically during sex. I practice semen retention. So yeah, I don't think you should like throw it at them right off the bat, but at some point, you definitely want to let them know. Do you think hot tubes decrease semen and energy? I think you mean hot tubs. Someone asked me this last week, but well, it's been shown that excessive heat can kill semen basically. So I wouldn't recommend like hot tubbing every day, but me personally, I like to go to the sauna every now and then. I like to go to hot springs, so don't worry about it too much, basically. But if you're like having fertility problems or like low sexual energy, then yeah, definitely avoid hot temperatures, hot water in your testicles. You absorb your partner's past sex partner's energies. Yeah, I mean anything that your partner has in their field, and so it's not unrealistic to say that when you have sex with someone, you're absorbing their energy and also the other people they've connected with. So it's this whole. It can be quite a mess in some situations. So yeah, be mindful of who you connect with. I heard that the $1 million spot is a flawed practice. It's definitely not like a great practice. It's something I teach it just as like a sort of a training wheels, we'll say, because it's something you can use kind of in an emergency. Like, oh, I'm going to ejaculate, so you can hit the $1 million point, and you'll be able to save some of your energy. But it's not something you want to use like regularly, and definitely not like a long-term practice. It's a pretty crude method, basically. If I didn't come after sex, my girlfriend would think something's wrong with me or that she didn't satisfy me enough. Well, it just takes communication. If you're practicing semen retention in a relationship, just say, hey, my semen, is important to me, and it's important that I don't ejaculate every time I have sex. I'm still having full pleasure, full orgasmic experience, but I simply choose to not ejaculate, and therefore I have more energy to share with you and pleasure you. So, just communicate about it. When you're practicing retention in a relationship, communication is super important. Why don't you think women benefit from NoFap? Wouldn't there be similar brain changes? It depends what you mean by brain changes. Like looking at porn, probably, yeah, it's probably the same for women. But typically women aren't depleted from orgasms the way men are. So, I think it's quite a different context for women. Best things to do after relapse, and by relapse I mean sex with my girlfriend after 22 days of semen retention. Again, watch my video on recovering from ejaculation on YouTube. Do you think that a tension in your lower back increases urges? I mean, good question. The tension in your lower back could be due to like, sexual frustrations and things like that. So it could be connected in some way. But I don't think necessarily that tensing your lower back is going to all of a sudden give you sexual urges. All right, guys, just wrapping up, answering some questions. Does excessive masturbation cause brain's perspective change? I'm not sure what you mean by that, by perspective change. Once you said men need at least 20 to become multi-orgasmic, but what happens when you have sex with women who can't last that long? Is it possible for a man to become multi-orgasmic in less than 20 minutes? So what I've said is that typically it takes at least like 20 minutes for a man to get into full body orgasmic states, basically. And so you're asking if you can do it in less than 20 because your partner doesn't want to last that long, it sounds like. So, I mean, maybe it depends how open you are, how open your body is. You can do more like practice before the actual sexual session to get the energy flowing. But typically it takes longer time for men to get this sexual energy flowing through their whole body and into the full body orgasmic state. So Is a man's G-spot really in his ass? I mean, it's the prostate, so yes, basically it is. How long does it take to reach multiple orgasms? Is a non-ejaculatory orgasm stronger than an ejaculatory orgasm? It's different for every man. It depends how much you train, how much you're able, how stuck on your old habits you are, and how open you are to changing those habits. So, I don't like to throw out timelines. It's different for everyone. But when you follow basically the sequence of training that I teach, in my course, is that you do all this groundwork to clear these old habits and open up the energy body to hold a higher charge of sexual energy, basically. And I see a lot of people kind of skim over this stuff, like, yeah, here's a little practice, but I like really focus on the fundamentals because that's what really brings the results. And then as far as, is a non-ejaculatory orgasm stronger than an ejaculatory orgasm? It can be, certainly. It can be much, much stronger. It's different. It's a completely different experience. A lot of people think that myself included, because I didn't have much clarity on what the non-ejaculatory orgasm was like. I thought it was going to be exactly like an ejaculatory orgasm, but without the ejaculation. But it's not. It's different. It's subtle in the beginning. It's this full body pulsation of sexual energy, but it builds and it builds to quite a different experience. Why am I losing energy when I'm orgasming without ejaculation? It depends what method you're using, and there's a lot of factors to it. Yeah, it could be a retrograde ejaculation, like Mystic 333 just said. Are wet dreams a relapse, and do you lose any progress you have been doing? It depends. I wouldn't consider them a relapse because it's not something you consciously did. Don't get too hung up on wet dreams. For some guys, they're really just unavoidable. If you're having like multiple per week, then it's definitely something that's a problem and that you should address, or like, once a week. But if it's like, say every 3 weeks, every month, for some guys, it's like every 2 weeks, they can't get past that period without having a wet dream. And in my opinion, this is just a sign that the body's like, okay, this isn't working for me. I need to clear this shit out, because there is a clearing that happens when a man ejaculates. So it's kind of like finding that balance for you between retaining and, having intermittent ejaculations, versus like being obsessed with this idea that you need to retain the semen for the rest of your life. It's all about balance. So don't get too hung up on wet dreams. Listen to your body, basically. So no, you don't lose benefits unless you're, having like multiple wet dreams per week. All right, guys, just going to jump off here in a minute. Any last questions? How to utilize the sexual energy for transmutation? Meditation, Qigong, breath work with a microcosmic orbit, move around the body. I had to go into this in depth in my course. Hey, thanks, James. Appreciate it. What happens after 2 years? What do you mean, what happens after 2 years? Longest time I've held it in, for how many days? About 3 months was my longest. And I can't seemed to. Yeah, because what happens is about 2 to 3 months in, testosterone levels drop. And from my experience, there's not much benefit to retaining for more than a few months, in my own opinion. After 2 years semen retention, what happens? I don't think much changes after about 3 to 4 weeks. From my experience, about 3 to 4 weeks, everything plateaus, not much changes. In fact, like I said, about 3 months in, your hormones actually start to drop. And so in my opinion, it may be the best idea to ejaculate after 2 to 3 months. It's about finding that balance between, obviously ejaculating every day is harmful, but trying to retain your semen for the rest of your life is probably not going to be best for most people either. So it's finding that in between point. But there are guys who do this for 10 years. Yeah, one of my teachers claimed to have gone decades without ejaculating. And he seemed very rigid in a lot of his ways, I will say. And that's kind of the pattern I've noticed with these guys who are obsessed with trying to retain their semen forever. They're very rigid. They're very obsessed over certain things versus, like, again, to me, it's about balance, in my opinion. So, just sharing that. I've seen that, yeah, the obsessive thought of, oh, if I ever ejaculate again, I've failed completely, and that's not a healthy mind state to be in. It's about finding the balance. between these things. A lot of teachers I study with actually say that if you go, it's important to have an ejaculation every month or two at least to like keep the energy cleared. So it's like, again, this balance between two extremes basically. But I encourage you to experience with yourself, no, try going a month without it, try going 2 weeks without it, try going 3 months, just see, what you'll find your own pattern. That's what I did for myself, is I experimented with different things. So yeah, experiment. Okay, guys, jumping off. Thank you for joining me. I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. And one thing I want to mention, Spiritual Bad Boys membership closes in 2 days. On Saturday, we're closing. Spiritual Bad Boys is an online training movement, basically, where we're teaching, myself and Nikula Das, my friend, we're teaching men to become multi-orgasmic, to transmute their sexual energy, and to be successful in their life. So check out the Spiritual Bad Boys group. There's a link in my Instagram profile and on my latest YouTube video. All right, see you guys. Take care.